guys, today I'm going to give you my 7 Facebook tips, mainly for bands, but it's also applicable to other people trying to run pages. If at any point you want to skip ahead, I'll put little bookmarks down in the video description, and also I'll give you the text version, so check the description for the links to that. So to give you some context, the reason I'm making this video, despite me not being like some kind of social media guru, is just because I keep coming across bands on Facebook who are saying things like, hey, is anyone seeing our posts? We're worried the Facebook algorithm isn't showing us stuff in newsfeed. Can you please leave a comment if you can see this? And it comes up a lot, especially with like some of the smaller local bands. So I thought I'd give what I know about Facebook and some tips to help you out with that. But most recently I saw this question come up from one of the larger sort of local-ish bands, and they're actually trying to crowdfund at the moment, and yeah, they're asking, is anyone seeing this post? Now, in 2019, it's really not necessary to ask that specific question, because if you go to your Facebook page, underneath each post, it'll tell you how many people have been reached. So the fact that no one's liking or commenting or sharing or whatever doesn't mean people aren't seeing it, it's just that they just don't engage. That's a different thing, how many people are being reached versus how many people are being engaged. But that's just something to know. If you want to know how many people are seeing your post, just go onto your page and it'll tell you right there. So that's not a tip, that's just like, you don't need to ask this specific question. Now, I pointed this out to the band, and I also mentioned, like, if you're not happy with the number of people being reached, there are a bunch of things you can try. And then they asked me, and of me being obsessive, I wrote a like 1,000 word comment back to them. They didn't end up taking any of my advice, but hey, what can you do? But I thought I'd share what I wrote anyway, because a lot of my favorite bands in the local scene have sort of like disappeared, died, folded, whatever. I realize some of that is personal circumstances, but if people aren't having success, and social media is a big part of it these days, if people aren't having success, I worry that that's part of their decision to like throw in the towel. So if I can help some of my favorite local bands maybe figure out their social media a little bit better and maybe get a little bit more success, you know, cross fingers, maybe less of them will fold. It's just like one of those small things that maybe I can contribute. But one more quick thing I want to say before I get into it is please note that none of this advice is anything groundbreaking. It's basically what you can find if you go online, search up a bunch of social media guru types, and just like, you know, pick out their advice. I think the main thing that I'm contributing here is just to bring it all into one place and give it to you in text and video, because a lot of bands don't have time for like all this kind of research. I mean, you want to be making music, so doing my best to give it to you all here and without like all the things that these experts are trying to sell you. They're always trying to sell you a book or a course or whatever. So let's skip all that and just get straight into some tips. By the way, these are in no particular order. Which ones are going to work for you and your band is going to depend on your own situation and how spammy or not spammy you're willing to be. So just keep that in mind. Number 1, make sure all your band members are sharing things too. That doesn't just mean that they share the posts from the Facebook page itself, because see, Facebook doesn't like pages. They prefer personal pages. So yes, share everything the band is sharing on your personal page, but also make sure you're making your own posts which aren't really directly connected to your band page. Like, you could tag your band page, but you're making your own posts. And the hope is that because Facebook favors your personal account, that might actually reach more people compared to if it knows that you're sharing directly from the band page, if that makes sense. With this in mind, also make sure your individual accounts allow public followers, and anything you post about the band, make it a public post. So you don't need to share everything on your Facebook with everyone. You still want some privacy. If you've got private posts, you can leave it to friends only or whatever settings you want. But if it's going to be about your band and something that you're trying to promote, make sure you make that public so that everyone can see it, and allow followers on your account so they can follow you but only see your public posts. Number 2, encourage other people to like, comment, and share your stuff. The Facebook algorithm loves when posts are engaging, so if they see likes, comments, and shares, that's a signal to them that this post is worth showing to a greater audience. So what usually happens is they'll start showing it to just a small group of people, and if those guys respond well, then the audience expands and they start putting it out to other people's news feeds. So you really need to have engagement, especially early on, to try and, you know, just get that reach out there. And the way to do that is to try and do whatever you can to make sure people are doing those interactions. What's really interesting about whenever bands do that whole thing of like, can anyone see our posts, is usually that post will do a lot better than some of their other posts. And one of the reasons for that is because they're actually saying, hey guys, come and comment on this. And they call it a call to action kind of thing. So then, you know, you get people saying, yes, I can see this. And then Facebook's like, oh, this is actually an engaging post. And so it will share to more people, and more people are like, yes, I can see this. And so it kind of snowballs a bit. The thing is, obviously, that post doesn't really promote like your next show or your next release or whatever. So what you want to do is find a way to get that effect on your important posts. And you do that by asking people to comment, like whether you ask their opinion or run polls or whatever. You've got to find a way to inspire people to interact with your posts. And there's a lot of ways to do that. There's probably social media gurus who can give you some tips on it, but like that's the goal. Once you have that goal in mind, you can think about what your audience might respond to and use that as part of your strategy. So like you try asking people to leave a like, try asking them their opinion to get them to comment. Maybe you could even try to encourage people to tag their friends in one of your posts. I'm not really sure how you would do that, like maybe tag someone who needs to hear this album, or like if you've got a funny photo, tag someone who can relate, blah blah. It feels a little bit cheesy, but sometimes you kind of have to play this game to get your stuff out there on Facebook. Also, if you're in the specific situation like this other band who are crowdfunding, one of the things you can do is, like, not everyone's going to be able to give you money for whatever you're trying to fund, but what you can do is, if they want to support you in a non-financial way, just explain to them that anytime they like, comment, share, whatever, anytime they can get your stuff out there, that's actually really helpful, and that's a way they can support you despite not being able to contribute money to what you're doing. And that actually is really valuable, because there are people out there who are willing to give you money for your project. It's just that they have to be reached first. So if the people who are supporting you non-financially can get it out there, the chances of you reaching those people with money increases a lot. Also, with all this call to action kind of stuff, do make sure you mix it up. Like, don't be repetitive, don't say the same stuff every time, otherwise it's going to look really lame. Like, try and mix it up, try and have some variety, and you'll probably have better results. Number 3, make sure your fans know about the see first option on Facebook pages. Sometimes when bands post these things saying like, is anyone seeing our posts? People will say no, and I'm really frustrated, why isn't Facebook showing me your posts? And one of the ways that you can tell these people how to get around that is when they go to your Facebook page, they go to the thing that says following. There's a little drop down menu, and it's generally set to default, which means sometimes you get to see their posts, sometimes you don't. But if you want to see everything that the Facebook page is posting, you need to click see first. And I mean, you know, does it work all the time? Maybe not, but your chances of seeing something from that band page increase a lot. So make sure you have fans and followers, make sure they all know that that's an option for them if they want to see more of your stuff. Not all of them will want to, but if you can encourage that, that might help as well. Number 4, make use of the stories feature. So, I mean, this has been around for a while, but there are still people who don't know about it. Even if people miss your Facebook posts, the thing about stories is it stays at the top of Facebook. Now, not everyone watches stories, but you do increase your chances by having something up there, just because, like, you know, the posts that you make from your page, they can get buried in a feed of so much other stuff. But if they're at the top with stories, you know, like, it's at the top, right? And it'll stay there for 24 hours. So you do increase the chances that certain people will see it. The other thing is you might reach a different audience. Like, for example, some people might see more of your actual page posts, but there might be people who don't see that and they're more interested in stories. So people engage with Facebook in different ways, so it's worth having both. Now, if you're also running an Instagram account, remember that if you make a story on Instagram, there is a built-in feature. Once you've connected it to your page, you can actually get it to share directly to your page, even automatically. So if you are already making stories for Instagram, you can avoid doubling up by just automatically sharing everything. Now, with the whole audience engagement thing, you can also have that in stories, because there's like interactive stickers where you can run polls and, you know, keep people interested in what you're doing. So it's worth looking into that if you want to get into some of the fancy stuff to do with stories. Instagram does have better stickers, but as far as I'm aware, they don't really transfer over to Facebook. So if you want to use the stickers on Facebook, you do have to still make it in the Facebook app. But yeah, it's just another option if you want to get some interaction with people. And you know, when people do interact, sometimes they feel a little bit more invested in what you're doing, so like, it's worth a shot. Now, one last thing to say about stories, even though Facebook does favor stories above other content, like they have that bar that has a whole bunch of stories in it, they do still favor personal stories. So really, every band member should be posting stories that are related to the same content as on the page. And the reason for that is because they will show personal stories first most of the time, and then page stories end up further down the line. So to increase your chances of engaging with people through stories, you've got to use your personal accounts. And there are some advantages to that, because also you can post like your main story, but but you can also post links, and you can't do that on a regular page unless you have a certain number of followers, I think. So you can actually put your main story and then post a link story afterwards so that people can look at your story, and then if they want to follow through, they can go to the next one and it'll have the link, and that's a way to like direct them to say your YouTube or, you know, whatever it is you want to show them. You could actually directly link them through your story. So it's worth doing, and yeah, they do preference personal stories over page stories. So everyone needs to stay involved for the best results. Number 5, share stuff to groups. Now there are a bunch of Facebook groups that are dedicated to music, and often like even specific genres, specific areas, all that kind of stuff. You can really target more like who you want to see these posts. Now this is one of those ones that does get a bit spammy. I'm a member of a lot of groups on Facebook, and especially for like music in Sydney to do with metal and whatever, and with my old band I used to share a lot of our gigs to all these different groups. But you know, it's about getting more eyeballs, because even if you share something in a group, there's no guarantee anyone will see it. Groups do have the advantage of you being able to target things like genre and location so that you get more of your target audience in that way. But yeah, you kind of just have to experiment with it. You will sometimes notice that certain groups just aren't worth sharing to because there's nothing going on in there. But like once you've tried it a few times, you'll get an idea of where you should be sharing things. Also, Facebook fairly recently, I think, announced that they're trying to pivot towards groups. I don't know why, it's super annoying to me. But if Facebook is going to do that and you want to reach people through Facebook, you kind of have to play their game. So it's probably worth like, you know, learning how groups work and, you know, how you can use them now. Because if Facebook does start pushing us all into groups instead of letting us have regular news feed, or I don't know how they're going to handle it, but if that's what they're trying to push, you need to play the game, so yeah, you gotta look into it. 6, start a fan group for your band. Now this tip is probably gonna work best for larger local bands who already have a decent following. If you're a brand new band and you don't have any fans, your group will probably be empty for a long time, so it's better to just like wait until you've got like a hardcore of people. It can be a small hardcore, but you do kind of need that core audience who are really into your stuff for this to work. That said, sometimes this can be a really good strategy because you know, Facebook might hide your page posts, but within groups you can set it up so that you're always notified about what's going on in the group. So if your fans choose to, they can always get notified when you're posting things, and that becomes a more reliable way to reach people. For another thing, this might actually be a good way to encourage loyalty. So chances are only your super fans are going to join groups, especially at first, and they're the ones who are really dedicated to what you're doing. So what you can do is like make your group kind of like a little club, like this. You've got your page, which is like the outward presence of your band, but then you've got like the insiders and the club, you know? So things you could do with that, for example, especially to encourage people to join the group and turn on those notifications to find out when things are happening, is you could share a lot of like behind the scenes stuff, you know, special stuff that the general public doesn't see so much. That could be a really cool way to engage with your audience. I guess it's kind of like a sort of Patreon idea, but without the funding going into it. And you can also use that group to sort of, I guess, organize your fans. Like if you've got a group of fans who want to help you promote, which is really good, you can encourage them to, you know, do the whole like, share, comment thing and get the word out about your band. They can kind of be like your team. And then 7, dive into your analytics. Now, before you freak out, I don't mean this in the way that social media gurus tend to talk about. You know, like you don't need to do social media audits or any of this kind of scary stuff. Basically what this is for is just to work out which of your posts are doing the best. The simplest thing that you could try is go to your insights, then go to posts, then go to post types. And that'll tell you like whether people most enjoy your photos or your videos or your text posts or your links. Like, you know, there's different types of posts you make. And in that specific category, Facebook will tell you which ones are getting the most people engaged. And using that information, you can be like, gee, people really like video on our channel. Maybe we should do more little video things. So in that sense, it can sort of give you an idea of like what types of content you might want to be posting. I mean, you don't have to go strictly, but it's just to give you a better idea. Generally, I find if you're just doing text-based posts, people aren't that interested. If you want to catch people's eye, usually the ones that work best are either images or video. So if you go in here, you can compare, do people like your videos more or do people like your images more? And then you can sort of get some direction on which one you should focus on. on. Now, another thing in analytics that might be worth looking into is your demographics. And it can tell you stuff like, I mean, yeah, there's stuff like male, female, age range, whatever. But one of the interesting things it also tells you is when your followers are online. So you can sort of get an idea of when you should be posting in order to have like the best chance of people seeing what you're doing. So if you notice that all your followers come on at lunchtime, like on the lunch break during work or whatever, you could post just before that so that there's a fresh brand new post, and while they're at lunch they could be looking at your page and seeing what's going on and possibly engage with you more there. It's a little bit hit and miss, I've found, you know, because it depends on when Facebook actually decides to show people your stuff. But, you know, kind of interesting, might be worth looking into. Other than that though, like there's so many different analytics, it can kind of just explode your brain. So unless you're really keen on that stuff, I don't think you really need to worry too much about analytics. The main things to look at is maybe like what post types are most successful for you, and maybe what time people are logging in. Those are maybe the two things. You don't need to do all the other analytics stuff that some of the social media gurus are into. It takes up too much of your time. So those are my 7 tips, but now for one thing not to do, especially if you're in that crowdfunding mode. Don't private message people just to promote your stuff, especially if you're asking money. Don't make massive groups full of like 100 people just to promote stuff, especially if you're asking for money. It's super annoying because like I've had people do this to me, and it's the same thing, you know, when someone gives you a friend request and you accept and then they don't say anything to you except to share their links to you or invite you to like their page or whatever. It's that kind of annoying, but with personal messages, like that just has this more intrusive, invasive kind of feel, and if your only reason for messaging someone is to try and get them to follow your band or give you money, it's really annoying, and you're gonna lose fans that way. So don't do that method. It's annoying. Like, you may get people's attention more reliably, but you'll get negative attention and they'll just like fuck off out of like your chat group or whatever and ignore you. I sometimes will unfollow, unfriend, block, depending on how annoying it is. So, you know, just please don't do that kind of thing. A while ago, I actually did like a private Facebook post about my top 10 most annoying like friend-based interactions on Facebook, and my top one was that massive group chat that someone randomly adds you to just to try and ask you for money for like some crowdfunding or whatever. That is my top pet peeve. I might actually turn that into a similar like kind of post and video and whatever. It's just like, don't do those kinds of things. When you're trying to interact with people, please be genuine. Like, you can private message someone this stuff if you already talk to them and it's kind of natural, like, you know, you always talk to this person, you know, it's not that the only thing you ever talk to them about is to ask them for money. Like, you know, it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, my band is crowdfunding this thing. That's okay. But if the only thing you ever say is give me money, no one likes that. Anyway, so I think that's everything. I hope this is helpful. Please keep in mind that I'm not any kind of social media guru. I don't have any fancy qualifications or like marketing training or whatever. I'm just one of these nerds trying to do things. Well, when I had a band, I was trying to do things for my band, so I just like sit down, read through a bunch of articles, get really into it. Yeah, and then compile the information for myself, try things and see how it works with my band. That's kind of my experience. I'm not one of these like experts or anything, but on the upside, I'm also not trying to get anything from you. I mean, I do have a Patreon if you want to join that, but like, you know, I'm not a social media guru trying to get you to buy my book or buy a course or whatever. So yeah, this is just because like I really want some of my favorite local bands to do better, and yeah, I don't know, I did the text version because some people prefer text, but I find a lot of people don't like to read, so here's the video version. Oh yeah, one final thing, speaking of video, okay, so with this band who were trying to crowdfund, you know, people were trying to give advice in the comments, and one of the things that I saw, someone was saying don't post video on Facebook because no one will see it. Now, this is half true. What Facebook hates is YouTube videos. Hello, we're on YouTube right now. Facebook hates YouTube videos. Now, so if you try and post a YouTube link directly to Facebook, they don't even embed it properly anymore. They just have it as a link, and then, yeah, hardly anyone sees it. It's super annoying. But if you upload a video directly to Facebook, Facebook actually likes that because they hate YouTube so much that Facebook is like, we want to be the next video thing, so they will promote their own video stuff definitely more than they'll promote YouTube. At some point in time, they were even favoring videos over other content. I don't know if that's still the case, but yeah, if you post videos directly to Facebook, they actually like that. So it's only the YouTube ones they don't like. Now, as much as possible, you want to post videos directly to Facebook if you want to improve reach. But sometimes there's a situation where you don't want to be doing that. So things you can do to get around it is instead of posting the YouTube link, what you can do is take like a screenshot of something from the video and post that as an image, and then in the description have the link to the YouTube thing. That's one option. You could also take a short clip from the video and put like a teaser onto Facebook as the video and then link to the full video. Or the other thing is sometimes you can say link in the comments, and then in the comments you can post the YouTube clip, and then a lot of the time that actually does embed properly so that they can watch it within Facebook. It's a little bit of a roundabout way to do it, but these are the ways that you can handle Facebook's attitude to YouTube. So as much as possible, upload something directly to Facebook if you want reach to be the best, but there are ways around it. So that's my final little bonus tip, I guess. Anyway, so as I said, these are some fairly basic tips that a lot of social media gurus will talk about. Sometimes they have variations, but hey, I've done my best to bring them all into one place. I hope this is helpful. If it is helpful and you know a band, or like anyone who's struggling on Facebook, like, you know, you might have some artist friends or whatever, if you think this might help them, just send it. You could send the text version, I don't care. Whatever is the most helpful. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. If you've got any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Remember that I'm not an expert, so I'll do my best to respond. But yeah, there's limits to what I know. So yeah, cool, rock on, have a good day. I'm gonna go. Bye.
Well, if I never tried